Welcome everyone. Today we have another new episodes and this is all about the economy and economical aspects. Uh, in the COVID-19 situations, this is very new for everyone. And in that situations, actually, we are facing a lot of challenge, a lot of problems, lot of issues, and lot of things by which it's actually give us lot of pain. So in that particular situations, actually, we have to understand what's going on inside our business cycles. Another major important thing is hit economy badly. This is unemployment. And if we have a lot of unemployment and this kind of things, then our economy goes down. That's why many of the countries, their GDP and the growth rates go down. And final thing is that inflation. So if you have the inflations, then your prices of the products and everything goes up. So today we're going to discuss on that particular point. So what is business cycles and unemployment? If we want to understand the business cycles and unemployment rate, first thing first, we have to understand how are cycles measured. Second, we have to understand what causes business cycles. And three, we have to understand what is unemployment. So what is business cycle? Alternative period of economic growth and contraction, which can be measured by the change in real GDP. So we need to figure out the alternative period of economic growth. In the COVID periods, we have to understand the economic growth and contractions. Is of the business cycles. In the business cycles, we have four phase. Number one, peak, when our business go up. Number two, like phase two will be recessions. Many countries right now they can face recessions. Phase three, throw, and phase four, recovery. So what is peak? Maximum points. When real GDP reach its maximum after rising during a recovery. So when, like example, after the COVID situations, when everything goes normal and all of the economical aspect and everything goes up, that times we have to understand that this is the peak point of our GDP. What is recessions? Contractions. Recession is a downturn when real GDP decline and the unemployment rate increase, so called a contraction. How long before a downturn is a recession? At least two consecutive quarter in which real GDP decline. So in the COVID periods, many economy and many countries go for the recessions and this kind of things. When our real GDP goes down and when our everything goes a different kind of problematic way, that times we can say the economic recession. When is a downturn considered a depression? The term depression refers to an extremely deep and long recessions of the year early 1930s. In the 1930s, there is a economic recessions and this economic recession was long term. What is a tough minimum point? When real GDP reaches its minimum after falling during a recessions. What is a recovery or expansions? Recovery is an upturn when real GDP increase, so called an expansion. So in the GDP point of views, we find there is a few things. There is a recession, there is a recovery, and through this point there is this specific points. This x-axis is a one business cycle, it's a one specific years, and y-axis will be the real GDP per year. The real GDP per year means these specific points. In these specific points, we have a peak points, we have a growth rate lines like is a downturn times, and we have a peak points. In these particular points, we can analyze this hypothetical business cycle. So this is basically a actual business cycles. X-axis 1 year business cycle, one business cycles. Let's say year 2001 to 2007, we can figure out one business cycles. And the y-axis, this is the billions of 2005 dollars real GDP. Let's say this will be from 10,000 to 13,500 billions of dollars is a real GDP. So there is a 2 points. One is peak in terms of in 2001, and there is a throw points, and this is a one of the point. There is a recessions if it's go down, and if we focus on this curve, we can find the income extreme, the billion-dollar real GDP extreme is goes up, and in that particular point into year 2010 the economies goes down. It's called the recessions in 2001. Then it start through, like example, we give some sort of push for our economy, and in that situations they go for the expansions of our economy, like they are developing our economy. This is called the this times like year 2001 actually the recessions, and these times actually from year 2001 to year 2007, this is the through time. This time is through times, and by this way they go for this economy go for the expansion of their business. So this is the important things of our business, that every business it will be happen. So I want to give you some of the explanations of the severity of the post World War II recessions. In the post World War II recessions, basically there is a specific the recession date, there is a durations, it's a month, and percentage of declining in the real GDP, and peak unemployment rate. So these particular issues and this particular point, we have to understand we in a proper way. So recessions basically when happen, let's say in the COVID period, many business goes shut down. Even US market, around 41% of their business go shut down. In that situations actually people go for the unemployment, people do not have enough jobs. When people do not have the enough jobs and this kind of things, then they start to bargain different kind of things and different kind of policy. And this when they're facing this kind of things, then at that time actually recession comes. In the after post World War II recessions actually, November 1948 to October 1949, uh, the 11 months, their percentage of the GDP decline minus 1.7, and unemployment rate was 7.9. In July 1953 to May 1954, this 10 months, its percentage of declining of the GDP is minus 2.7%, and unemployment rate was 7.4%. In April 1960s to February 1961, unemployment unemployment 70. This 11 months we have percentage of decline real GDP minus 0.6, and peak unemployment rate 5.9. Recessions dates November 1972 3 to March 1975. Durations actually 16 months. This 16 months we have minus 3.1% GDP, and unemployment rate is 8.6. So January 1980s to July 1980s, durations totally 6 months, and percentage of decline minus 2.2, and there is the unemployment rate is 7.8. July 1981 to November 1982, duration totally 16 months, and percentage declining in real GDP minus 2.9, and unemployment rate is 10.8%. July 1980s to March 1991, duration is 8 months, percentage declines is minus 1.3, and peak unemployment rate is 6.8. So same things that example. This is the July 1981 to November 1982. These are the time when unemployment rate goes high. So this is actually some of the story, but we have to understand this COVID period, especially this COVID time periods. We have to face a lot of issues like this kind of recessions, unemployment, and especially business shutdown. So economic growth, basically, economic growth is depends on the expansion of the economy. So what is economic growth? And economics is a national output measured by the annual percentage increase in a national real GDP. Why economic growth is a goal? It increase our standard of living. It creates the biggest economic pay. What are the three type of economic indicators? Number one, leading indicators. Number two, coincidence indicators. Number two, lagging indicators. So what is leading indicator? So leading indicators is uh, uh, something that the leading economic indicator are used to forecast change before the rest of the economy begins to move in a particular direction and help market observe and policymaker predict significant changes in the economy. It is useful to forecast the timing, magnitudes, and duration of the futures economic and the business condition. The index of consumer confidence index initial job index, initial job placement index, initial claim and average hours work are example. What is coincidence? Coincident indicator. Variables that change economic activity. Coincident indicators include employment, real earning, average weekly hour work in the manufacturing, and the unemployment rate. What is a lagging indicator? Variables that changes after real GDP changes. Lagging indicator is an observable or measurable factor that changes sometime after the economic, financial, or business variable. It is correlated with change. Lagging indicators confirm trend and changes in the trend. They can be useful for evaluating the trend of general economy as tools in business operations and strategy, and or as signals to buy or sell asset in financial market. So there is a three type of things. One is leading, another one is coincident, and another one is lagging. Leading. Leading indicators is new building permits, stock price, money supply, interest rate, consumer expectations, unemployment claims, new consumer goods orders, new order for plants and equipment. Coincidence. Coincidence is a non-agricultural payrolls, personal income minus transfer payments, industrial productions, manufacturing and the trade sales. Lagging actually unemployment rate, labor cost per unit of output, consumer price index for service, commercial and industrial loans, prime interest rate. What is unemployment rate? The percentage of the people in the civilian labor force who are without job and are actively seeking job. Who is the unemployment rate calculated? Each month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics surveys 60,000 households at randoms. Civilian labor force. What does the civilian labor force mean? People 16 years or older who are either employed or actively seeking a job, excluding members of the armed force, homemakers, and people in institutions, in prisons, correction center, etc., who is considered employed. Anyone who work at least 1 hour a week for pay or at least 15 hours per week as an unpaid work in a factory, industry, or factory. family who is 16 years of age and above who is actively seeking employment, who is a discouraged worker, a person who want to work but who has given us searching for work. So here is the total population is 16 and over, not in labor force, armed force, household works, student, retirees, personnel with disabilities, institutionalized person, example in person, nursing homes, civilian labor force. Civilian labor force has they are employees, self-employed, and unemployed new entrants, re-entrants, last job, quite last jobs, and laid off. So populations, employment and unemployment 2009, there is something. The total civilization population is 16 and over 235.8, not in labor force 81.7%, civilian force 154.1%, employees 139.8%, unemployed 14.3%, civilian unemployment rate 9.3%. So unemployment rate equals to unemployed divided by civilian labor force equals to 100. So what is the criticism of labor force? So if we focus on the criticism of the unemployment rate does not include discouraged workers. So when we analyze the unemployment rate, we need to understand that we cannot include the workers, those who have jobs and those who have job and employment. Um, and we can add unemployed workers according to policy, as well as and we cannot go for not measure under employment people working at job below their level of skills. What are the type of unemployment? Frictionals, normal search time required by work with marketable skills who are changing job, entering or re-entering the labor force, or seasonally unemployed. Structural, a mismatch of the skill of workers out of work and the skill required for existing job opportunity. Cyclical, employment caused by the lack of job during a recession. What is full employment? Full employment is when all available labor resources are being used in the most efficient way possible. What rate is considered full employment? The rate of unemployment changes over time, but today it is considered to about 5%. So what is GDP gap? GDP gap is the lost output of a country economy resulting from the failure of create sufficient job for all those willing to work. GDP gap in represented at the difference between actual GDP and potential GDP. As represented by the it is calculated at a GDP gap minus potential GDP divided by potential GDP. Inflations at present sessions, and in the present scenario, inflation create a major impact in the COVID period, especially in our business when there are a lot of unemployment, there are a lot of economical imbalancings and lot of issues which is not relevant to our present situations. In that particular times, inflation playing a major role. So how the government measure the price level, like as we have lot of inflation, our price is going high and high. In that situation, government has to control the price. Number two, how it compute the rate of inflations and the consequences and the cause of inflations. So what's the consequences, what the causes, why we our price go up, what is the reason behind that? So these are the things we have to understand. So what is inflations? An increase in the general price level of goods and service in the economy. What is deflation? Deflation, a decrease in the general price level of goods and service in the economy. What is the most widely reported measures of inflations? The Consumer Price Index (CPI). CPI is a consumer price index, is a major playing a major role for inflations. What is the consumer price index? An index that measures changes in the average price of the consumer goods and services. Who is the CPI calculated? Price collectors, contract retail stores, homeowners, and tenants in selected cities on monthly basis. Whose goods and services are included in the CPI. Statistic departments record average price for a market baskets of different items purchased by the typical urban family. Market baskets includes education, housing, transportations, and recreation as an economic measure. So composition of the CPI or market basket: transportation 18%, housing 33%, education 2%, apparel 4%, entertainment 5%, healthcare 6%, other 8%, and personal insurance 11%, and food 13%. This is the composition of the CPI or the market basket. What is the base year? A year chosen as a reference points of comparison with some earlier or later years. This is the things we call as a base year. So does the makeup of the CPI, consumer price index, change? As people tested and percentage change, some of the goods and the service that go into the basket change as well. CYP, cost of the market basket of the product at the current year's price, and the BYP, cost of the market basket of the product at the current year's price and the BYP, cost of the market basket of the product at the current year. The numerators and the denominators of the CPI formula are the same in the base year. How to compute the inflation rate? By measuring the percentage change in the CPI from 1 year to the next level. What is dislike inflation? A reduction in the rate of inflation. ARI, annual rate of inflation. CPIY, consumer price index is given years. CPIPY, consumer price index in previous year. So average annual rate of inflation equals to CPIY, consumer price index in the given years, minus consumer price index in the previous years, divided by consumer price index in previous year, equals to multiply by 100. So what are the some critics and critical analysis we have for the CPI? The market base may be unrepresentative. It can overstate or understate inflation for certain groups. It does not measure quality. Substitute are ignored. What does inflation do to people's nominal income? An increase in price will shark people income. What is nominal income? The actual number of dollars received over a period of time. What is real income? The actual number of dollars received adjusted for changes in the CPI. So RI, real income, NI equals to nominal incomes, CPI as a decimals or CPI divided by hundreds equals to RI equals to NI divided by CPI. Percentage change in return RI equals to percentage change is in NI minus percentage change in CPI. So everybody has to understand what is wealth. The value of the stock of assets owned at some point in time. Wealth is an accumulate of valuable economic resources that can be measured in terms of either real goods or money value or market value or exchange value. Net worth is the most common measure of wealth. How is wealth affect holders of wealth? If the value of their asset increase as the price increase, then inflation is greater than the rate of your nominal income increase. What is nominal interest rate? The actual rate of interest without adjustment for the inflation rate. What is real interest rate? The nominal interest rate minimum the inflation rate. How does inflation affect borrowers and savers? Depending on the rate of inflation and the rate of interest to which they have agreed. What are the two basic type of inflation? Demand pools and the cost pools. So what is the pool inflations? Demand pool inflation is the upward pressures on price that follows a shortage in supply. Economics describe it is too many dollars chasing too few goods. In Keynesian economic theory, an increase in employment lead to an increase in aggregate demand for consumer goods. In reason to the demand, companies hire more people so that they can increase their output. The more people firm hire, the more employment increase. Eventually, the demand for the consumer goods outpace the ability of manufacturing to supply them. What is the cost push inflation? Cost push inflation occurs when overall price increase due to increase in the cost of wares, equipments, borrows, and the raw materials. Higher cost of productions can decrease the aggregate supply, the amount of total production in the economy. Since the demand for the goods has not changed, the price increase from production are passed on to the consumer. Creation cost push inflation. Do people expectation affect inflations? Yes, key factor in determine inflation is people expectations of the future inflation. If worker expected future inflations, they will bargain for the higher wages to compensate for the increased cost of living. If worker can successfully bargain for higher wages, this will contribute towards inflation. What is hyperinflation? Hyperinflation is described as rapid, excessive, and out of control price increase in an economy, typically at rate exceeding 50% each month over time. Hyperinflations can occur in the time of war and economies an excessive amount of money. Hyperinflation can cause a surge in price for the basic goods such as food and fuels. As they become scarce, hyperinflation are typically rare. Once they begin, they can spiral out of control. These are the basic things we are discussing about the economic recessions and economic one of the major challenges in the COVID situations. Our unemployment it's increasing. Our business goes shutdowns. Our economic the globalizations has the major impact. Because of the globalizations, we have different game balls, different theories, different activities. Step by step it's changing. So when it's changing, especially the small organizations, many of the organizations they shut down. Even many big organizations they also going for shutdowns, and we need to take some times for this recovery. So in that situation we have to be very much responsible for our income. We have to be very much responsible for our developments and everything. So if you have any questions, I want to take some of the questions. So Hosne Araf Firdaus, hello sir, thank you for today's sessions. Araf Mehraz, how many sessions will it get on this topic? Basically, economy is a broader aspect. If you go for the micro initiatives to the macro initiative, if you go to the governments and everywhere economy play a major role. So we World Talent Economy Forums, we are actually focused on uh, a human resources with the integration of science, engineering, and technology, how they can economically more productive, how they can getting more earnings, how they can create more job opportunities. And this is actually ultimately objective of World Talent Economy Forums. So we will continue these sessions uh, but one specific points we have to understand that how we can get some sort of success and records. So we will train the human resources according to the present demand, that present situations, artificial intelligence, big data, blockchains, a different kind of technology playing a major roles. So we have to integrate it, AI and human resources, and we have to be very much productive. When we become very much productive, then our success rate and everything's uh, 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 will be increases. So this is our objective. What are the regulators to sustain GDP growth in the COVID situations? This is one of the interesting things that our policymaker can think about, that our policymakers have to understand. Now every country has suffered a lot because of lack of globalizations. So even though example you can see that Australia, China, Japan, Malaysia, Indonesia, and 10 different countries. They are creating their individual relationship, trade-free and business-oriented relationship. So when they develop this kind of relationship, definitely they have some sort of things. So we have to be very much focused on the micro initiative. When our micro initiative goes up, sorry, by this way our macro initiative also getting lot of support, and we will be successful by this way. So in that situation, most thing is that our regular things like our agricultures, our manufacturings, our different kind of health related constructions and the developments, different kind of things we have to be focused, and we have to grow business in a professional way. And definitely we have to maintain the way SOP and everything. So and in terms of the reducing the unemployment rate, we have to be very much focused on the skills developments of the youth community. When the youth community can grow their skills, then they ultimately can earn in different kind of things, and they can contribute to our GDP. So GDP is ultimately the bigger aspect that what we produce in the ultimately the individual country. But definitely we have to be more focused on employments, more focused on business creations and job creation. And now is the time government has to show their credibility. Government has to support a lot to their local community. uh, then Mohammad Sohail Rana, his question is that what sectors of the economy are likely to recover the fastest and which the slowest? Please try to understand that now the economical many more things is changes. So if we think the major things is that we can find that what area actually affected more. Let's say tourism, let's say supply chain management, restaurant business, like different university, school, college, where people actually gather a lot. This kind of sectors actually like suffer a lot. On the other hand, we have another area, like example technology and the healthcares. Technology playing a very good role, because now every office, every university, school, college, research center, government, they uses technology. So these are the area we can see some fastest growing the countries. Those who have the strong involvement the health with the healthcare system and these things, they can get a very good economical returns. On the other hand, the tourisms and the universities and the area where people go a lot, it can be affected. Araf Mehraz, his question is that how would be balance of unemployment in the future is possible? Basically, technology. As much as possible, our youth community, they can integrate it with the technology. They can enhance their capacity. They can develop their capacities and everything. That times they can get more job opportunity. And like for the internet, we have 4.3 billion people. Now we have to be more focused on particular points. Now we have to be more effective on that particular point. So when we engage with this kind of things, we can get more opportunities, and by this way our unemployment situations can be solved. What is the impact of employment crisis on economic stability? Thank you, Muhammad Sohail Rana, for your good questions. Look, when the unemployment situation come, let's say we have our business organization, right? So business organization, when we recruit more, when we have a good business, when we have a good employment opportunity, when we have a good cash opportunities, when we have a good cash flow, that time we create a lot of employments. On the other hand, unemployment means what? When we do not have enough cash flow, when our business do not move forwards, so that times we there is a chance that we can do shut down our business. On the other hand, we can merge with the other organizations. Even another important things I always request to the developing nations, when there is a situations, this is not happening, let's say India, Bangladesh, Pakistan's, Indonesia, this kind of country, I request to the small organizations, you have to understand the beauty of merger and acquisitions. You have to understand the beauty of merger and acquisitions. When you can merge with each others, when you can merge with another one company to the another company, then we get a more impact. You both, like example, one and two organizations, when they solve each other problems, they can save the organization. They can recover it from the situations fast, and faster way they can get more solutions. So in the by this way they can save their company, as well as they can create the employment thing. So this is very common that in our micro initiative and the macro initiative, both of the way, we have to understand that how we can recover fast, how we can create some effective solutions. And most important thing is that technology, modern science and engineerings, merger and acquisitions, government initiative, as well as we have to create proper money flows. So even example, after the Second World War, how actually US economy goes ups and rise. The situation is that when they have the economic recessions, that time they start to develop different kind of projects, and the bank start to like printing money. So when they start to develop different kind of projects, and people come here, the people joins, and people get monies and everything. This way, the different industry, food industry, clothing industry, entertainment industry, housing industry, government boats, and this time is very good entrepreneurs. These times is very good opportunity for governments and the corporations. They have to know the art of merger and acquisitions. The more they go for the merger and acquisitions, they go for more success. What should be the major steps taken by the government to make the self-employment is employment sector for economic transactions? Very good questions, Hosnara. My point of view is like that. Actually, first thing first, you have to reduce the corruption. Okay, government provide lot of financial support, but government need proper policy. Government need proper things in their hands, like policy that how the small organizations get more benefit, how the individual person get more benefits, how we can think the modern world now think about UBI, universal basic incomes, how we can generate these things, how so in that situations we need proper policy, good policy. If government can take good policy, that time we can solve many problems. And most important things, we need to reduce corruptions, we need to be very much supportive for our peoples, we need to create the intellectual think tank, we have to work with the think tank think tank actually give us lot of strategy to the government. They can do market research, economic research, as well as they can give different kind of directions to the government. By this way, government can create better strategy for the individual's employments and create more impact full economy, and by this way people get more earning and they can survive. So this is the ultimately the objective of the today's sessions, that how we can solve the unemployment things, how we can solve the economic recessions, and most important thing is that how we can do for the sustainable GDP. So if you want to maintain these three things, and if we take the proper strategy for our economy and business related things, by this way we can solve many problems in a professional way. So thank you, there are many good questions. I get from Araf Mehraz, Hosna Araf at those. Thank you. Mohammad Sohel Rana, Abriaz Mustains, and I want to give you special thanks. And we want to create a more effective team with our School of Talent Economy, and we want to develop different kind of strategy alignment with the global strategy alignment with the global community, and we can make successful ventures, and we can create knowledge based community around the world. And we have our objective that we want to create more employment. Thank you for your very good questions and in everything, and hopefully next day we're going to discuss another things. Thank you, Muhammad Shohel Rana, for your beautiful support. Good luck.